Okay, so good morning everyone. So I am Mervy Sabrisa Malinog. So I'm going to report about the Romanticism, which is our chapter 6 lesson. So Romanticism focuses on the individuality of a person. So Romanticism is a movement in the arts and literature that originated in the late 18th century, emphasizing inspiration, subjectivity, and the primacy of an individual. So it was an artistic, literary, musical, and intellectual movement that originated in Europe in the approximate period from 1800s to 1850. So it was also characterized by its emphasis on the emotion and individualism, as well as the glorification of all the past and nature, preferring the medieval rather than classical. So when the Puritan and uh, the other or the Renaissance focuses on the rebirth of their literature, and the Puritan age focuses on its temptation. It shows the weakness of a man when it comes to women. So romanticism is your power as an individual. So yes, nag-focus na siya on how you create literature and how you express yourself through poetry, and yes, like that. So let's move forward to the events that influenced the Romantic movement. So there are two historical events that influenced the Romantic movement. So first, the American War of Independence, which began in the 1775 and ended in 1785. So, and the French Revolution of 1789, where the royalty, dedicated rulers, were removed and each individual got his share in the governance in the country. So, Romanticism and revolutions were much interconnected. Romantic poets were greatly influenced by the French and American Revolution, and these political uprisings were very much the driving force of change in the literary landscape. So these two are a great factor in the creation or in the movement of the literary pieces during this period, which is the Romantic era. So there are two divisions of Romantic literature, that is the Romantic prose and the Romantic poetry. So Romantic prose is innovative, individualistic, intuitive, and imaginative. So when we say innovative, so you have to innovate or you have to create it in your own without imitating the works of others. And when we say individualistic, intuitive, so it's your own intuition. No, you are not referring with the ideas of the others, and it's imaginative for still it is prose, but you have to use your imagination to create a holistic literature. And romantic poetry is individualistic, also lyrical and musical. So because it is poetry, so it is expected that it may be lyrical and musical. And also it is individualistic because romanticism again focuses on our individual expression. So the pioneers of the Romantic prose, namely Charles Lamb, William Hazlitt, Thomas Dickens, Walter Lander, and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So the aforementioned people are the easiest. However, there are also novelists, namely Sir Walter Scott, Maria Edgeworth, and Mary Shelley. So we will tackle these all important people in the next slide. Then the Romantic poetry, there are two pioneers, which are William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So the first the first famous are pioneers of the Romantic prose, Charles and Mary Lamb. So supposedly these two are siblings. Yeah, so Charles together with Mary, they work together to create a piece. But then they have their own understanding, but they just combine it and create a holistic piece. So these two siblings were born around 1775 and died in 1834. So the writings were very engaging, artistic, and interesting pieces of literature. So Charles Lamb is also considered as the prince of English essays. So here are the notable works of Charles and Mary Lamb, or particularly Charles Lamb. So Essays of Elia of 1823. So Bridget and Elia are the characters that in a way pseudonym for Mary and John, Charles' siblings. So this work characterize or realize the life of the siblings or the brothers and sisters of Charles Lamb. So this work is dedicated to his siblings. Then Christ Hospital 5 and years ago, Christ Hospital 5 and 30 years ago, it is an essay that talks about the friendship between Charles Lamb and William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge during here their school days. So how they spent their time together in schools and how they managed to build their friendship relationship as uh, yeah as friends and colleague. Also, the two races of man. So this is comparatively short and humorous essay talking that there are only two races of men in the world, uh, the lender and the borrower. So yes, so when we say the lender, it is who makes you borrow money, and the borrower is those, yes, katong nangutang. So at this point, so ingon siya nga duha ra jud aw ang klase sa tao sa kalibutan, ang mangutang ug ang magpautang. So this is kind of humorous or funny. Then the fourth one is Mrs. Battle's opinion on West. So it is a very humorous essay that the kind of funny things were had in the essay and kind of opinion that she had, no one on earth can change her opinion. So in this essay pod, kay kanaang iyahang opinion is mao jud to siya, dili gani walay opinion sa uban nga maka-change sa iyang opinion about a certain thing. Una nga so anyone kay dili maka influence sa iyahang pananaw about sa usa ka butang. So bisag unsa pa. So also the dream children in a reverie, the praise of a chimney sweepers, a dissertation upon a roasting a pig, and tales from Shakespeare. So let's forward to William Hazlitt. So as we can see, this is William Hazlitt. So he had a greater prestige because apart from being an essayist, he was a critic as well. He was writing magazines, bringing out some publications and the like. So, ano siya? Ilado po siya kayo because of his talent, his skills in writing prose and essays. So, the following are his notable works. So, the ongoing a journey. So ongoing a journey talks about the pleasure of the morning walking and enjoyment of the nature and the solitude. So kani siya ongoing a journey is kana ganing the feeling of kanang relaxation nga kana ang you're stepping like mm, maayo ang tanan like nga na imuha nga gina-enjoy ang ang soothing feeling nga gi-offer sa ato ang nature, especially sa morning setting. Yes. Then on the fear of that, so from its title, so it talks about how people fear of that. So um, this talks about how us human fear death. Yeah. Then ano siya nga kanaang dili ta ganahan kanang ganahan na lang unta ta nga dili ta mamatay something nga na tagbahadlok sa kamatay. And then also on reading old books, my first acquaintance and the feeling of mortality and youth. So kaning on the feeling of immorality and youth presents illusions among youth that life is forever and they are not going to die. So more siya connected ani on the fear of that no ang kaning on the feeling of immorality and youth. Okay, kanang mura man ni siya assumption sa usa ka teenager or sa usa ka youth nga forever siya nga mo live sa world nga dili siya mamatay nga na siya. Then on disagreeable people, so also this talks about the people you would not like to sit or to be with them to. So kani saya kay disagreeable gani ko, so kung dili ta puyon ana nga tawhana or we are not in a good relationship with that person, so kana ang dili ta ganahan nga makigalubilo nila, dili ta ganahan mo sit sa lang nga table because there's the possibility nga the respect is not kana ang kuan served mo na nga mo ni sila daw ang klase nga isi nga nagtalk sa mga tao nga dili ta ganahan nga makauban because they will disagree with our anak. Yes. So next, let's move to Thomas Dickens. So he wrote the chronicles of actual crimes and the felt scruple at other times in passing off their fictions as the truth. So mo ni siya nga kanaang yan. So there are two notable works of Thomas Dickens, The Confession of an Old Opium Eater. So it describes in effective detail of euphoric and highly symbolic reveries that he experienced under the drug's influence and recounts the horrible nightmares that continued use of drugs that is eventually produced. So, kani siya is kanaang kuan siya kanaang recount ni siya sa iyahang experiences no because he was once an addict or an addict of drugs, an old opium eater. So mo ni siya nga iyaha lang nga gina retell ang iyahang experiences sa pagka iyahang pagka opium eater. So this so kana ang iyahang gina tell ging unsa ang iyahang feelings ato while katong iyahang gibuhat while he used drugs like that. And the English male coach. So another, so Walter Savage Landor. So he is a poet, prose writer, and an activist. He produced a considerable amount of works in various genres, the poetry, the prose, the political writings. So, so one of his notable works is the Imaginary Conversation. So this piece brings the character in bringing characters in the history and imagining their conversation so bring characters in history and imagining their conversation. So kana ang wait. So again, this imaginary conversation is kana ganing ang mga characters sa history is ilahang nga kuan ilang gihimo nga character ani nga essay, then ilahang nga gi imagine ang ilang conversation kung unsa dayon lang gipagistoryaan in the past, so inga na siya ilang gi-made up ang ilang nga conversation, possible conversations. So, next, we have Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So, I know we are a kind of familiar with him kay nagbalik-balik na jud ni siya sa ato ang ano ba, mga references or mga sayings na siya quoted iya nga ngalan. So, he occupies a very significant position and status in romantic literature in prose and poetry. So, dili lang wala lang siya nag-focus sa prose, no, na siya sa poetry. So, along with William Wordsworth. So, his notable works are the Biographia Literaria and the distinction between fancy and imagination. So, Biographia, Biographia Literaria. This book occupies a very seminal position in English literary theory and criticism in general, and romantic prose in a particular, and such. It would be inappropriate to move without mentioning and talking in detail about the particular book. Biographia Literaria essentially is an autobiography. In this book, Coleridge is writing about himself, his own experiences, and he came across life and the kind of people, kind of events, kind of things. So all that poet experienced in his life becomes a part of the famous book. So ano siya is biografiya, so is kuan niya yan nga biography, so iyahan niya nga talk ni siya about his life, no, as sa iya pa jud nga pagsugod until he became an author something nga na. So next, the distinction between fancy and imagination. So kani siya nagatalk rin nga na adjud kalahian what is fancy and what is imagination. So so kung may nga tawag fancy, so it assembles things, so imuha lang ni siya nga ginakuan, it assembles things, so it even divides, and so it does kind of the surface work. So ano siya, then ang imagination siyempre, so we have to create in our minds kay nag-imagine lang man ta. So naadyo ay kalahian ang imuha nga pantasya ug sa imuha nga imagination. So that is according to. So next, we have Sir Walter Scott. So Sir Walter Scott adheres to the maxim in the most important figure of Romanticism that you have the absolute freedom to write about anything and everything. So siya no nagkuan siya nag-advocate nga tadi ay nandiyo tay power or natin freedom to write about our experiences, our own nga na kana ang story, something like that. So these four are his literary works or pieces. So the Waverley novels, Ivanhoe, Kenilworth, and the Heat Midlothian. So next in line is Maria Edgeworth. So she is another prominent novelist of the Romantic period. So as you can see, she is women siya. So women, we have the power. Diba? Dili lang mostly man jud sa una is mga lalaki. But then napo day babae, no. So nagyapon day voice ang mga girls, women ato nga time. So dili lang siya ingon nga nag-focus lang jud siya sa mga laki. So her literary pieces includes The Castle Rackrent, so of 1800s. It is a satirical condemns Anglo-Irish landlords for generations of an Irish landholding family, the Rackrents. So mo ni siya, when si landlords man jud is siyempre nagpuyo sa niyang balay, renting, yan na. So more siya boarding house, nga na. So at their time, so sila ang So sila ang kuan, sila ang makaingon taog. Kata nga dato sila because they have the another Belanda. So it is a novel from 1801, a novel that dealt with love, marriage, courtship, and conflicts between reason and feeling. So kuan ni siya love poem, love novel nag pakita or nag-convey sa feelings of in love, kana ang courtship, kanang marriage, no? Kung mga paniligaw sa una. So, naadiri. Nakakuan ani nga part. So, again, and another, Mary Shelley. So, Mary Shelley, she holds a very seminal positions in the Romantic literature and considered as the mother of science fiction. So, ano kang gitawag ni siya og mother of science fiction? Because sa iyahang nga work nga kaniang The Frankenstein or The Modern Prometheus, a futuristic novel, a self-destructive science fiction. So, kanida siya kana ang kaning The Frankenstein is kanang nag-talk ni siya about sa nag-talk ni siya about sa it represents the story of Frankenstein, a scientist who builds an ugly but emotionally sensitive an 8 foot tall monster in his laboratory. So kani siya si Frankenstein, siya to ang silbi matawag na to og scientist nga iya nga nagkuan siya, nag-create siya o kana ang monsters sa iyang inside sa iyang laboratory nga mo to ilang gikuan nga makaguba or makakuan sa humanity, makaguba sa kuan, ma-distract ang world tungod ato nga monster because masakit na nga monster then musik siya og revenge which is destructive para sa mga tao. So, lagi, it is a science fiction one good siya. So, it is futuristic. Nung makaingon ta nga, maybe mahitabo ni siya in the near future. Nga na. Then, The Last Man. So, it propounds a prophecy that in 2073 actually, it is 2073, humanity will destroy itself and only one man would be left. So, mo ni siya nga kana ang nag-predict po ni siya or nagpakita po ni siya og propesya nga igabot daw sa year 2073 ang humanity daw ang katawhan daw ma-destroy siya ma-destroy itself then kana ang naanalay usa ka tawo na lang jud ang mahabilin. So mo na siya nga The Last Man ang iya nga title. So let's move forward to the romantic poetry. Okay, so there are two generations of poets under the romantic poetry. So the first generation poets and the second generation poets. So under the first generation poets are William Wordsworth and others. So first generation poets born in an atmosphere which was near classical and materialistic and is between 1770 to 1780. So mga kipang anak nga na. And then the second generation poets born in an atmosphere which is comparatively more radical, revolutionary, and individualistic. So, ani nga mga kuan is mas nangusog na jud sila og ayo. Ay sa first generation, kuan pa man siya kana ang they're classical and materialistic pa. But pag second generation is kuan na siya, more radical, revolutionary og kanang individualistic so kuan na jud niya gipakita na jud niya ang iyang pagkasiya iyang kuan his or her being individual as a person na. So mao to siya si William Wordsworth. So William Wordsworth is widely regarded as a founder and the most central figure in the English Romanticism. No, so Iyaha nga work nga the preload or growth of the poet's mind and the lost leader. So kaning preload of growth of the poet's mind is an autobiographical poem, the expression of personal emotions and feelings in poetry. So mo gyapon siya no nga it's your expression jud yun sa ano mo pag-express ang imuhang literature within sa imuhang kaugalingon. So inga na pud nga pagkatao si William Wordsworth. Then the loose leader. So kani siya is kana ang dedicated ni siya sa work ni Robert Browning. So another we have Samuel Taylor. So Samuel Taylor is a famous figure of Romanticism and a member of the Lake Poets. So ang Lake Poets di agi consist ni siya og three people, si William Wordsworth, Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and si Robert Southey. So mo ni sila ang kuan. His famous works includes Goblakan, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, The Crestabile. The Crestabile. Crestabile is more like a ballad and folktale than to William Wordsworth, Frost at Midnight. So in the second generation poet, so sa second generation poets, kay si John Keats. So John Keats is an English romantic lyric poet who's best known for its vivid imagery and great sensuous appeal. So kanang known ni siya sa iyahang negative capability nga which is naa siya kuan kana ang power or power to negate his or her own personality. So negation, negative capability. So next generation Lord Byron. So a British romantic poet and a satirist whose poetry and personality capture the imagination of Europe. So example ani nga yang work is si kaning Don John or Don Juan. So kani si Don Juan is kuan siya renowned womanizer. So dili ra ni siya matempted og kana ang babae nga siya. So another sa first generation poet is si Robert Southey. So as I have said earlier, he is also a member of the Lake Poets. So English poet and writer of miscellaneous so he is also an English poet who miscellaneous prose who is chiefly remembered with his association of William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. So mao lagi to siya no nga iyaha nga kana ang friendship or relationship nila ni William Wordsworth ug ni Samuel Taylor is na kuan kana ang tabo pod nga kana ang kanang mailhan siya, mahinumduman siya because sa iyang engagement with these two kanang known nga poets within this generation. And lastly, we have Percy Bysshe Shelley. So an English romantic poet, essayist, and dramatist. So her works includes Ozymandias, To a Skylark, and The Mask of Anarchy. So the center of romantic kuan is si William Wordsworth din siya sa Romanticism. So I think that would be all. I think that would be all with this discussion. I hope you've learned something. Thank you.